Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the Mindsetting Podcast. I'm your host Goro Tan. And before we start, if you have not done yet, then please hit that subscribe button and give your like to this episode. This way, you can help to share this podcast with more people who might need to listen it. Anyways, so let's dive into today's episode. So today's episode is the very first episode of the series I called PodShorts, which are basically same as the shorts on the YouTube, but for the podcast, short and meaningful. So let's get PodShorts. What do you want? If I ask you this question, you might answer, I want peace, or happiness, or let's say money, and some would say success. But most people never know what they want. If you ask me, what do you want? I would say, I don't know what I want. But on the other hand, if you ask me what I want to do in the next 5 months for this podcast, then I think I do know. Because now it's more specific question. What do you want is too imprecise to produce a meaningful and actionable answer. Okay, now forget about it. Let me ask you, what are your goals? I'm sure it will create a confusion and guesswork. So to ask a better question, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. Let us assume you have 10 goals and that you achieve them. And if I ask you, what would be the desired outcome that would make all your efforts worthwhile? The most common response would be happiness. Well, I personally no longer believe that this is a good answer. You see, happiness can be bought with a bottle of wine as well. Let's dig it more. What is the opposite of happiness? You would say sadness, right? No. Just as love and hate are two sides of the same coin, so are happiness and sadness. Crying out of happiness would be the perfect illustration of this. So the opposite of love is indifference, and the opposite of happiness is boredom. I think excitement would be the more practical synonym for happiness, and it is precisely what you should strive to chase. It is the cure for all. So when people suggest you to follow your passion or your bliss, I suppose they are in fact referring to the same concept, which is excitement. Now that brings us to a full circle. The question you should be asking isn't what do you want or what do I want or what are my goals, but what excites me. And for me, creating these kind of episodes for my audience on this podcast excites me the most. That's all for this topic. I hope now you got an idea to ask a right question to yourself. Peace, much love.